We've developed several ciphers.
Murdered in Dallas, Texas. He was shot by a sniper hiding in a building near his...
Holy fuck!
A bizarre flash occurs, and the plane has vanished. Upon
WEF is an
Fly Houston. Vector good. Bye-bye, fly.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Episode 3. And we're going to get into some crazy stuff. I hope so.
I hope so.
I have some questions. I at least came prepared with questions.
My
I don't
mind
have-
expanded on this one. There's some good rabbit holes. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it's going to be good.
It's hard to stay like close to the mark on what we're trying to talk about without branching into
I was
like
thinking,
50 things.
I did have a suggestion
Yeah.
for the Connect the Dots crew.
Oh, what's that?
We steal some Ritalin so that we can stay focused. So we could just like, I've heard you can crush it up and just like snort it.
Nice.
And we
Yeah.
all just like hit a line before we
Yeah.
start.
In the name,
Ritalin?
in the name of science.
Right.
In
right.
the name of saving everybody from our squirrel moments.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that's
we
also
just
makes it
we
fun.
just like it would be so bad.
It would. We'd all be, yeah, no.
Yeah.
We're just like tightening our microphones to the desks, like
Just
we
cleaning
don't
up.
do
We
anything.
just clean up around here.
Yeah.
There was like a little jingle that went around when I was a kid about Ritalin. And I can't remember the whole thing, but like the chorus was like, I can't stop fiddling until I get my Ritalin.
Really?
Yeah. Because back then, dude, I felt like any kid that had like ADHD, which is like
Yeah.
everybody now because we have phones and
Yeah.
yeah, we're all messed up. But
I think the Simpsons reference that song. Bart gets put on focusing.
Focusing.
He ends up like the whole episode. He's like seems to be like crazy and focused, and he ends up proving that like the MLB has a satellite and they're like spying on the Americans, and he takes down the satellite, and he's like, they were listening to all of our thoughts and blah blah blah, and the people are like, that's so crazy, and then Mark McGuire shows up out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, who wants to watch me sock some dingers? And they're like, yeah. And Bart's like, but they've been spying on us. And then everybody just goes and watches him hit home runs. And then it
That's
like
too
ends.
true, dude. It's so
I
scary.
know. Oh, man.
Here's how cynical and bad it's gotten for me, the state of this world. What you've heard of the Big Bang Theory, obviously, right?
Right.
And then they have the show Young Sheldon.
Yeah.
So then I'm watching Young Sheldon, and it's supposed to be these funny things, but like, it's just like a sad story. This
Oh,
boy's
that
like
little boy
totally
that's, like,
under.
white trash family. He's
Yeah,
super
and he
smart.
hates his family. He's calling him names. Like he
Yeah.
says a bad word, so she flicks the kid for swearing or something.
Yeah.
I'm just like, we shouldn't be celebrating this.
Yeah.
This is like terrible. That's how far, maybe too far even I've gone with. I don't know. It's just like, this isn't funny. And then I feel like that, like the emperor wants me to watch this
Yeah.
and be distracted.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me now.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I feel crazy a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's once you go down that conspiracy theory rabbit hole, like everything, you just like me and my wife were just watching the documentary that's on Netflix about Lake Tahoe and the avalanche. I don't know. Anyways, but the whole thing was there's this avalanche. I think it was like back in the 60s.
They
or
like
70s.
had to like
Spoiler
blow
alert.
up. And,
Yeah, they were, like,
avalanche
blasting,
control
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's such a bad area.
Yeah, and
to
they
begin
had
with.
like this terrible storm, and there's this like avalanche, and then like people got caught in it and everything. But in my mind, I'm like, if you are an investor and you end up investing in this ski resort, and then you find out that it's like a terrible spot and it puts people at danger, but it's like big money, dude. It's
Yeah.
like, nope, we'll just put in all these precautions, think that we can manage Mother Nature so that we don't have to relocate our ski resort and take a loss on our investment.
So there was a real thing where they had a huge avalanche like that?
Yeah, I think it was like 6 people died. Spoiler alert. Sorry, anybody that
Because
hasn't seen it.
there's like a really cheesy movie that has like, I want to say like Farrah Fawcett in it and some of those old like 70s icons. And I remember one of the actors that's supposed to be like this ladies man gigolo character is who's the really famous gay guy. Gosh, he's an actor, and he was
like
hidden
a ton
gay.
of people.
He was hidden gay in like the 50s and 60s, but then it came out that he was gay. Rock Hudson's in it. Oh, you don't know who Rock Hudson is?
him.
It's pretty old. It was a pretty big deal that he was like this, like, I mean, he was like the Bruce Willis or the whatever
Of that
at
time.
and then he came out gay like years later, and he was in it, and it was like the avalanche. It was this drama. Where like the rich corporate guys come in, and it must have been like a.
Dude,
I didn't know that really happened
That's
because
that theory that like they
I love
always
bad movies.
tell you.
I love
they
bad
always
movies.
tell you what they're doing.
Yeah.
that's
And
true.
So that's like an example of stuff.
All right.
It's crazy. Well, we'll turn the time over to you, Fielding,
Okay.
and let you introduce our topic and give us a rundown, and then we'll just dive into it.
Yeah. So I'll start with kind of what they say happened, and then kind of what the conspiracy side of what happened. So in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico, they had a crash that happened on a rancher's land. And he reported it to the sheriff. Sheriff came out, looked at it, reported it to the military. Member of the military came out, looked at it, reported back that they had captured a saucer. And so the newspaper reports that they've caught a flying saucer. It's a really big deal. It blows up. And then the next day, the newspaper retracts the statement because the military said, no, that was an accident. It wasn't a flying saucer. It was actually just a weather balloon. And then they just kind of buried it and moved on. And I mean, that makes
In a
sense.
nutshell.
Like you can see it, like whatever. But the conspiracy part of it says that in 1947, a UFO crashed. A rancher saw it, called the sheriff. Sheriff called the military. Military came in, and then they started picking up pieces of it and loading it onto a truck. And the newspaper found out, reported that they'd caught a flying saucer, and it blows up. The military then comes in and says, no, change the story. It wasn't a flying saucer. It was a weather balloon. That's what we're going to tell everybody. And so that's what they told everybody, that it was a weather balloon. But you look at the material that they picked up at the site, they shipped to another Air Force base that they had captured like Russian aircraft and war stuff. They took back to that same base to like pull it apart and try and figure out what was going on with it. So it's like, why would they do that if it was
Nothing.
just a weather balloon?
Right.
And then it goes on that there were bodies that were recovered, 4 foot in size.
No, some of those too, it was a second crash were the bodies, right? Like there was 2 crashes.
So there was 2 crashes. One, like the main one,
happened with, and that was the weather balloon, the one that everyone said was a weather balloon. Even though
that's one that they said.
even
that was a weather
though
balloon.
the official first report from the military was, yes, this is a flying saucer.
Right.
And we had talked about DB Cooper a little bit.
Yeah.
All things start in the Pacific Northwest. Everyone knows this.
Yeah.
And there was a pilot flying between, he was going to look for wreckage and try to get this reward to find this crashed plane. While I was up there, he saw something flying around, and it was by Mount Adams, which I just went to Hood River and I could see all the mountains. And so I was thinking about this. I'm like, holy cow, this is where this happened.
Sweet.
And he sees it, and this is where the term flying saucer comes from, because when he went and told the newspapers about it, and he's like, it looked like a saucer skipping across water. And that was where the term flying saucer comes from. And that was 2 or 3 weeks before Roswell. And so he had kind of primed the pump with this
Yeah.
news cycle. And then when this happened, it was like everyone was ready to believe.
Everybody's
And
ready
it was
for it.
DB Cooper.
No, but
No,
the
just
flying
along the
saucer where
lines.
DB Cooper
Oh.
jumped out of his plane was literally where this guy saw the flying saucer.
So funny you bring up DB Cooper. My wife. Okay, so this is the weirdest
She's related
connection.
to him.
No.
She is him. Oh, no.
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
4 kids
But hey,
later.
clones exist.
Yeah, but no, my father-in-law, his brother, okay, so this is my
Okay.
wife's uncle, knew DB Cooper personally. They fought in Vietnam together, but he said that DB Cooper wasn't his real name; it was his cover name, and because he asked him that, and he's like, "My name's DB Cooper." And he was back in Vietnam when like the CIA was running side ops,
Yeah.
and they would use military escort to get to these different villages. And anyways,
That makes sense. He jumped out of a plane.
Yeah.
so
He was just following orders.
I mean, unless there's a bunch of CIA guys and they all went by DB Cooper, I don't know. But DB Cooper.
That's cool.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry. Side note.
Operation Treadstone. Anybody
Yeah.
familiar with the
Bourne
Matt Damon,
series.
the Bourne series? Anyway,
So there's.
but I think that's interesting though that it was like before like this month of where Roswell, like no one thought about it.
Right. Maybe sci-fi.
Like sci-fi,
kids,
some crazy
comics
sci-fi
and things.
writers had written like The Martian or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And some other stuff, but it was like this is pretty new ground,
Right.
and so
So then you mentioned there was 2 different crashes. There was the one that happened at Roswell, and that was in New Mexico, right?
Uh-huh.
So Roswell, New Mexico, saucer crashes. Were the bodies recovered from that crash, or was there a second crash?
I
where
thought the
were
bodies
recovered?
were recovered from the first one.
the thing that I was reading, and this is the first time I'd heard it. So here's the hard part: you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
It's been so long, and there's so many like different stories, but
It's like, yo, cite your sources, bro.
yeah, yeah, it's probably another YouTube channel that I was watching for all that matters. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like who knows which is which. But I know that the one guys were really focused on the materials, and it seems like if they had found bodies, it would have been a different story. You know, they would have been like,
Right.
well, there's
Yeah.
alien bodies. And then the second one, when they were talking about it, is like they had already gathered that material and then shipped it off to Wright Pat. And then there was another crash, which, by the way, there was 2 lightning storms. So there's apparently New Mexican lightning storms are like, it's called heat lightning.
Yeah.
And it just goes for hours and hours. And so it's also they're like the lightning probably struck these craft. They weren't ready for it and crashed. Yeah. And so, and then the way they described how they came out, they people, eyewitnesses that were at the second crash, at least, they were put on guard duty, but they had to face away from the center, and only certain people were allowed to walk into the center.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so, I don't know. It's pretty kooky. So I don't know Fielding if it is or not, but
No, I mean, that makes sense if they're like, because, yeah, the first crash was very much, they would talk about the material that, like, we didn't have on
Like
Earth,
the-
and I
like the
still
foil
think
stuff
we
that would,
we
like-
don't have it. Yeah, so it was like a super thin material that was like foil, and you could fold it, and it would come back out and hold its shape.
and then
And
there
it
was
had
another
like little hieroglyphics on it, and it had like a little purple hint to it.
well, and there was an I-beam too that these guys that were at it later recreated. So
yeah,
they-
so that was the rancher and then his son
yeah.
who were there who saw it, and they like held it. They talked about it for a long time, and then that's when like they blowed it on the back of this military guy's truck,
No.
drove off, and then the dad goes with the military people, comes back a day later, and tells his son like, we don't talk about it anymore. This never happened, kind of thing.
Who else
So
is
then
kind of
years later.
who else is really interested in the fact that they described it as hieroglyphic writings?
Yeah, which is awesome.
I mean,
there's a
come
lot of-
on, people.
I said in episode 1, like, I'm all
Yeah.
Egyptian stuff.
This is
I
where-
love it. I love it.
Fielding's villain origin story is all about
Yes.
the Egypt stuff.
Yep.
So, but I actually thought I didn't know that until just now. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, no way, that would really click in place a lot of weird stuff.
Right. Well, and they say that because Area 51's existed for such a long time there, and they say that they've like moved Area 51, and it's really now like a Dugway base, which is just over the mountains there.
So we know where that one is too.
Yeah, and that's like the new one that
Over
they're
the
doing
mountains
all
from
these
us?
tests and stuff.
Dugway?
Yeah,
Yeah, Dugway Proving Grounds. There's
Yeah,
like
that's
this whole thing about
supposedly-
how there's an
Do
underground
you realize
base there.
my wife goes and refs basketball there?
Yeah, she better be on the lookout for some.
Okay, here's-
She gets a game in Dugway and she has to go out and
Here's-
they like check her security like 15 times.
Here's an interesting thing. So
Ooh, wow.
without giving away this top secret site that we do our
Mm-hmm.
podcast from,
Yes.
but from this location, we can feel the explosions shake the ground beneath us from Dugway, which
all their
they
That's
put on their
unnerving.
website.
0G tests.
They put on their website that they're going to be blasting, like exploding old ordnance, but it's powerful enough that even 20, 30 miles away, it shakes the ground that I'm on.
If that's not like a cover story, first of all, that'd be amazing if it wasn't. But if that was an actual cool job, that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah,
Like you're just blowing up bullets, and missiles,
old
and
stuff.
So I actually probably need to rewind because there's one story I do want to share with you guys as a person who has actually seen a UFO.
Okay, yeah. Let me put on my seatbelt.
So I'm in kindergarten. So this is probably 1979.
It's about 30 years ago.
Yeah. Thanks, Billy.
I was going to go the other way. It's
yeah.
like 1912.
Yeah. Thanks,
Before-
Daniel.
Before
So
the
you can say
Titanic.
the same thing.
Tell the
and-
location.
You can say the same thing and mean totally different. Yeah. So I'm living in Helena, Montana, 1979, and there's an eclipse coming. And I remember my dad came home from work because he's like, "We're gonna watch the eclipse," and I'm like, "Cool. What's an eclipse?" You know.
Right.
So I remember we go outside, and if you've ever been in an eclipse, it's like that weird, perfectly daylight, and then all of a sudden it turns dark, but it's not like nighttime dark.
Right.
It's like
Daniel and I got to live through an eclipse together
Yeah.
at work. It was rad.
Oh, really?
But continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When
We were together at
You were together?
JL.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
So it's anyway. This is my first eclipse. I'm 6 years old, and I remember we're out there and we're looking up, and we're like, "This could be so cool." And there was no like glasses back then, so you just don't look at the sun or you'll go blind type situation.
Yeah.
Which
Which I think is rubbish. But
And it's in the 70s, so like then the discipline was like a smack to the head type
From your
situation.
dad?
Yeah.
okay.
So I wasn't looking, but we were looking kind of up, and all of a sudden the sky just kind of goes. It's like a veil goes, kind of. It's like, and then it's dark, and then there's a freaking thing, and it looks weird because it looks kind of far away, but it's not a dot. It's like a craft.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can say it. Like not that far away, and then it goes, and it kind of moves slow, and then it goes. And I'm like,
Sweet.
and I can barely remember it. So I gotta, but my dad's like freaking out. And I'm 6. So I'm like, of course. Yeah,
You're just like, yeah, that's the eclipse.
That's the eclipse. There's an alien ship,
Yeah.
That's part of it.
And my dad's freaking out. So he goes, Linda, 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 Linda. That's how he says Linda. But it's funny to me to hear it. Linda. And I'm going to go check this out. So he goes to like W local TV station. And it's like, did you guys see that? And they're like, yeah, we have it on film.
Sweet.
No way.
Yes. And this was back in the olden days, you know what I mean? Where it was like film. And then he like went back to like check, because it's like Helena, Montana in 1979. So it's a pretty small town.
Yeah.
And he goes back to talk to them. And they're like, yeah, no, we didn't have it on film. Because he like, can I get a copy of it? He's trying to like worm his way into a copy of it. And they're like, we don't have a copy of that. No, whoever said that,
Yeah.
we don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, there's only 6 people that work here. Like,
Yep.
like where's that one guy that told me they had a copy of it? It's like,
Yeah.
we
Oh
don't.
man.
So anyway,
Dude, that's
I
crazy.
I barely remember it, so I wish I could, it's almost to where you start to question if you really
Yeah.
saw anything because it's
Yep.
been so long, but
Or
it
Or
happened.
is it like you tell yourself it was a dream?
Yeah.
and it's so real.
You want to like deny it maybe, or maybe it was a glint of this.
Yeah.
But no, it was like as if someone, it was like if like a hot air balloon, that's what it kind of reminded me of because it's movement. It wasn't even like, stationary. Sorry, Chris.
Shout out to Chris, by the way.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was just sitting there, not like a digital image not moving. It was like moving.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
But not driving away or flying away. It was just like it just looked real, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my freaking UFO story. And so who knows what it was. Now in my adult like rational age, I'm like, it's probably a military something.
I always wondered
And
that.
it could
like,
be, but
is it a
definitely-
military thing that they're testing? So then I always wondered, did the test like fail and their camouflage dropped so people saw it, so then they have to come and tell people you didn't see it? Or was that part of it? Could they show themselves for a second and then get out and then talk to people, and did they see where it went? I always wonder what's
the motivation?
what's the motivation behind it, and because there's like so many.
Another thing I've thought is like, okay, if humans could go to another planet and observe some dumb species that we're just way smarter than,
Right.
every once in a while we'd probably like be seen,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
what? Then we'd go to our contacts on the planet that we're like, we're helping them.
Right.
Elon is giving them like free batteries.
Right.
And so they're like, yeah, we'll take care of it. And then they just would go out to their people and just tell them, hey,
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah, you didn't see
Yeah,
that.
You didn't see
what you
that.
saw.
I mean, it really seems rational in a way that just the way we think it is, like X-Files style, is really how it's happening.
Well, there's
Do you know what I mean?
there's supposedly like an entire galactic federation
What?
that we're part of, and
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that.
we have all these deals with.
That's too soon, man.
Okay,
I gotta,
all right.
like, spoon feed me.
All right.
I don't want Men in Black to be a documentary.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a field trip.
Well, the interesting thing is
Oh, dude.
like your UFO
I'll pump
experience.
the brakes. I'll pump the brakes.
Fielding's face is, for the record, not encouraging because he just looked at me like, okay, son. Okay.
Okay, noob.
I've done this long enough. I know. I just reel it back.
But here's the thing though, like your UFO experience is like the, I don't know, standard when it comes to like UFO sightings. That like all the documentaries I've seen, all like the different clips or whatever, right? And even like when you talk about, I mean, just recently, the federal government all of a sudden has an interest in it, or at least people in, Congress do, and you've had all these, hearings where they're bringing in firsthand,
Yeah.
whistleblowers and all this stuff, and
And they're like expert witnesses.
that have been
They're
there,
not
that are
just
in
like-
the project, that have
Yeah.
protection from a law that Biden passed giving whistleblowers protection over a certain amount of time or whatever. But
Which I do support that law.
I do.
I
Good
like
job.
it.
One thing that I don't think Biden did. I think someone else did it, but
Yeah.
credit
Good job,
to him.
Obama.
Good job. But
Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
but then the interesting thing is in that hearing, one of the witnesses came out and said was some of them are ours, where we have, backwards engineered some of these crafts, but a lot of them aren't. And so
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Well,
the
that's
thing. So there's
twofold. They're saying, well, some of them are ours that we copied from one we've caught or
Right.
studied, or they're not ours that we
Yeah.
haven't caught or studied.
But the fact is that they exist.
Well, and that's always been the thing. So there's thousands of videos, thousands of photographs, eyewitness stories. Only one of them has to be real for it to like blow the entire lid off of like our view of humanity,
Right.
which I think has been lied to from the beginning. And that could be another whole
Episode.
30 episodes of like
Yeah.
our true history
Yeah.
of man and all that. And
We're gonna get it,
it's
and we
cool.
will get into that.
Yeah.
We're gonna
I want to
there.
get into it now.
We gotta. I know. We gotta build
But
the
I'll wait.
foundation, but we'll get into a lot of the
well,
historical things.
I do remember too. Back to the Roswell to get back on track a little bit.
Right.
One of the things that stood out was the farmer's name was Mac, which, if you'll remember, the E.T. follow-up movie that was trying to rip it off was called Mac and Me. Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
So,
I didn't know
but
that.
I do like that his name was Mac. I'm like, of course it's Mac.
Yeah.
Seems really
He's just
nice.
like a rancher, dude.
He's
Like,
a
what-
rancher.
What are ranchers' names?
I don't know strong names.
What's that movie? What's that show we all watched together when we were all initially were like, I think I was the only one that was fired at that time. And it was on the dude has the big hole in the ground out in his ranch.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. I was driving over here today.
That guy, that's probably exactly
It's the
what Mac
rancher,
looked like.
What's the name of it?
It's the
Oh
best
my
show. It's the
gosh.
best show.
I'll find it really quick. You guys
The
keep
outer
talking.
range or something like that.
Outer Range.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
it.
Outer Range. Yeah.
That's exactly. That's
sick
exactly what.
Amazon Prime. Outer
Yeah.
Range.
That's
Sick
exactly
watch.
what Mac Brazel looked like. It was Mac Brazel.
Yeah,
Just this rugged looking dude.
he's a tough guy.
Well, here's okay. So a couple questions I have that I've always wondered. So obviously, like the craft crashes. You know, I understand the timeline a little bit of like what I've heard and passing that craft crashes. They call the police. The police are like, "Whoa, like we're not equipped to handle this." They call the military. Military comes in, takes the craft. They bounce. So is it just hearsay and part of the conspiracy that there was actual recovered bodies, or was that something that we feel pretty confident in?
No, so there's actually a letter written to, I think it was J. Edgar Hoover. No, who was the president at that time?
Well, I'll find out.
But there's a letter written to the president that's you can look up on the U.S. government website, and it talks about they've recovered 3 bodies, 4 feet tall, yada, yada, yada.
Very consistent.
In an actual...
Very consistent on the 4 feet tall thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which, a lot of people, I'm pretty religious, and I think a lot of people are like, well, there can't be aliens because I believe that we were created in God's image.
Right.
Well, I've known people 4 feet tall, and I still think they were created in God's image.
Well,
so I don't think that's a disqualifier.
God could be like 700 feet tall,
Yeah.
and we're made in his image.
Right.
Or he could be the size of an ant, and we're
Right.
still made in his image. Like, I don't think that qualifies.
Truman was the president.
Truman.
Okay.
Well,
So there's a letter written to him that you can look up on the government's website, .gov, and it's like...
What do you mean? It's just out there?
Yeah.
just public knowledge.
That's the kind of reminds me of even my story I just shared about my UFO. When I remember sharing that as an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old in high school, and people would just be like, "Whatever, weirdo."
Yeah.
And now I think the majority of people believe me.
Oh, yeah.
Even people who I think the whole thing shifted. They had that whole release from the U.S. Navy that released all those
Tic Tac
videos.
videos.
What was it called?
The Tic Tac videos.
Yeah, I can't believe how accepted it is now.
It's weird because you used to have, like, the scientists on TV were saying, like, we barely exist on a speck of dust. Like, we're nothing. And space is void and cold and lifeless. And now everybody's like, space is like teeming with life. Like, there's no way that we are the only things that exist. Like
That makes sense to me. It always has.
that famous quote from Jurassic Park where he's like, life finds a way.
Yeah. And my wife's like totally in love with him.
Well, how could you not be?
She loves that actor. What's that actor's name?
I don't know, but I know him as Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, Ian Malcolm.
He's got that show on
It's a fun show.
Disney Plus where he goes.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum is his name.
Jeff Goldblum, yeah.
And he looks up just like weird things.
It's
History
like
of
Nat Geo, though,
shoes.
right? Is it
No,
Nat-
I think it's
Is
Disney
it actually
Plus.
Disney?
Yeah.
Well, then, okay, so
So there's like actual bodies that were recovered, that there's documents that exist, and then they also have the person that ran the funeral home in New Mexico, in Roswell. He has like his eyewitness account of getting the 4-foot caskets for the military to like put bodies in, because they allegedly like put bodies in and then ship them to another air base where they just like put them on ice. And I think that's where they cut into them and started dissecting and trying to figure out
Like
what
what-
it was,
what
because there's
anatomy they
multiple
had.
eyewitness accounts of people that like worked on the bodies, And they talk about, they thought they were like this one guy who first looked at the bodies. He's like, I thought they were children, but they, like, the arms were too spindly. Their eyes were really big. They didn't have ears. They just had like canals on the sides of their head.
Right.
And as they like started cutting into the bodies, they realized that like those big black eyes that we always see on like Hollywood movies, that those are actually just like lenses that they wear, and it's not their actual eyes. And that what they're wearing is like some sort of suit.
So is that what we know as the Greys?
Yeah.
Is the 4 feet tall, kind of gray in color, black eyes.
Yep.
Bigger
so
head,
those are the
skinny.
gray aliens. And then people also say that the Greys are way beyond like our capabilities, but there's some form of android. So that the Greys have abilities to, like, you know, how they abduct people. They come in, they don't communicate, but you can like hear them. They can like lift you up, they move you around, all this stuff, but they're just like
a Mars
androids,
like a Mars rover.
What we would do if we sent out, we're gonna send like robots, because you think about, well, if you takes however many years to travel through space, it's like, well, an android could just hang out.
It is interesting that, like, the more we advance technologically, the less that's. I mean, the less all this seems absurd.
Yeah.
I get how maybe some people that were like milking cows and just, you know, they when they were kids, they were taking wagons to town, that they're like, this is too much, and this
right.
is. But now it's like, I mean, I love the androids depicted in Interstellar. Remember those guys? And they're like funny, and they like turn the humor down, and then and they could run fast and do all this stuff. And it's like,
robots.
That's feasible already. And then so like, all right, let's go 1,000 years in the future.
Right.
I mean, they came out with the iPhone in like what, 2006 or something?
Yeah, I think so.
2004 maybe. And it's like,
no, I think it was 5 or 6.
yeah, but I mean that. So to go another 1,000 years, what's going to be happening? It's going to be ludicrous, and it will seem alien. That's another thing that one of the things I was reading. And Billy, you might have an opinion on this, but maybe it's just us.
Yeah,
maybe Roswell's just us.
Yeah,
we sent people back in time.
There's a theory that
Interesting. I never thought of it like that.
So we've gone like thousands of years into the future, and so we've evolved to living inside the Earth because we're avoiding like harmful UV rays and all that stuff.
Keep our skin tight.
And like asteroids and things, and so we have evolved. We don't have to do physically like demanding jobs, so muscle mass has gone down.
Universal income.
Yeah. And what happens then is, supposedly this is one of the theories, that their DNA is so like decrepit and breaking down, so that they are coming back, abducting specific people that have like the DNA or the genomes that they're looking for, and then going forward to try and like fix whatever has happened. But then
That'd be a good idea. Do you know what would be easier, aliens, if you're listening? Just come and open up a business, ask for some volunteers. There's plenty of weird people that'll be like, yeah, let's do this.
yeah, who knows that 23andMe isn't that.
Whoa, dude.
You're just
We'll still take you as a
sample
sponsor.
for free.
Yeah.
23andMe, let us sponsor you.
Yeah.
I just love how 23andMe is like catching like all
Oh
these
my
like
gosh.
serial killers
I
from
just
years
listened-
ago because like their nephew.
I just listened to
gets
the awesome
tested.
I just listened to that awesome podcast of the one from California. I can't remember, but it was like a 40-year-old case, and
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
they
yeah.
caught because someone along their DNA line
got it.
Matched.
Dude, that's crazy. I didn't think about
Can you
that.
imagine that?
You
Just
know,
like
if
Uncle
you're a
Tommy
serial
at
killer,
Thanksgiving, and then a year
that's what.
later.
But what if you were the serial killer and you're like, dude, seriously?
Yeah,
you freaking
you
went
flipping
get
idiot. I
I
told
got
you
away with
last
this.
Thanksgiving.
I got away with this.
Don't trust that stuff.
I said they're out to get you, and you didn't believe me.
You didn't believe me.
Look,
Yeah, this is on you.
they're out to get me
This is on you.
because I'm guilty.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah,
too funny.
I don't know. It's pretty weird, dude. Watch
So-
out what
yeah.
you're doing. It's Gattaca
Yeah.
all over again.
Well,
Another
yeah.
killer movie recommendation. God, it's a good one.
There is.
Well, then here's another question then. So, and I like to watch all the documentaries and stuff, but I don't feel like I'm like extremely versed on like what we think aliens are and all that stuff. But there's different species of aliens or androids, if they're androids, right? Because there's the grays, but isn't there like, I don't know, other abduction stories, alien interactions, whatever, that are not the grays, that there's like a different species or...
Yeah, so there's
Give us a rundown.
there's
maybe.
like 100. Oh, there's hundreds. I'll try and,
Hundreds?
Yeah, I'll try and like...
Oh, I thought there was like 2 or 3.
So the main
Give
ones...
us like a dirty dozen.
and I'll try not to like start going into the history of them.
Nerd.
So the Dracos are a reptilian, like 12-foot tall
Wait a minute.
reptilian, what we would think of as like a devil in the scriptures. And supposedly they were the ones that were like doing a test with the dinosaurs. And then like our God came in, wrecked their test, put forth like man's. And so that's where they were like reptilian. They were trying to
And
evolve
you've
that.
seen the awesome miniseries from the 80s, right? V. Anyone?
That's familiar.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's move on. I'll tell you about it after.
Okay. So Draco, that's like reptilian. That's where they're like, oh, the Pope is reptilian and blah, 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 blah. So that's like the bloodline of the reptilians, shapeshifters.
Comes from Draco.
Right.
Okay.
Then you have...
So we're thinking like kind of like a god, war of gods
yeah,
type situation.
Yeah, exactly. So then you have the Nordics. The Nordics are like tall, like Swedes, long blonde hair. They were the ones that supposedly made a deal with Adolf, gave him technology, and that's where he was like trying to cleanse the world. And so he
Adolf as in
believed that
our-
he had teamed up.
Our Nazi
Hitler.
party starting friend.
Yeah, that he
Enemy.
was like blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yes,
Those are the
enemy,
pure.
enemy.
Those are the pure race. Yada yada yada. So those
But
are
they were
the
aliens.
Nordics. Yeah.
Are you saying
And
the
they-
Nordics like the who we would think is like the Vikings?
No,
Or
I'm just
people
saying
that
what
are
they
Nordics
call
now?
the Nordics.
Oh, they just call them
like
the Nordics.
refer them as the Nordics
Because they have
look
that
Not
similar-
like
Scandinavian.
Norwegian people.
No, no,
Okay,
no, no,
because
no.
I'm descended from them. So I was
Yeah.
like,
Well, I'll get you tested then.
bad
The
news.
23andMe is going to come back some weird stuff.
And then, yeah,
Okay.
and then like the Greys.
But the Greys is believed that they're like some type of android.
Yeah.
Potentially.
That they're like a worker for, yeah, a different, yeah, like an AI that exists out in the universe.
Right.
You know, it is interesting because me and my son were talking about like the different levels of civilizations that can exist. Are you familiar with that? I don't remember exactly what they're called.
Kind of, but I'd say
It's like
give a rundown.
we're like a level 1. You know, we can like use a small percentage of the sun's energy, and
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
then there's like level 2 where you can like you're using lots of it, so like it's almost miraculous by what we would think. But then there's almost like this god level. Like there's literally this theory that some civilizations can harness 100% of the energy of their star, and that those people are capable of things that we can't even like dream of.
Comprehend.
Yeah.
Because this guy's like, well, he's really smart. I should have looked up it more, but he's like, yeah, you can do anything. Like if you can imagine it, there's a way to do it. It's just a lot of times it's limited by the amount of power you have.
Right.
That makes
And
sense.
so like he's saying, yeah, but statistically, I mean, somebody out there is doing this, and then why
Yeah.
wouldn't they visit us?
So he's
Right,
saying
that's
like
kinda his
most
thinking.
civilizations don't get past phase 1 or level 1
Because they kill themselves.
because they.
As soon as
makes
they
sense.
start getting into that, we're kind of right at the cusp, according to his theory, to where once we harness nuclear and get solar dialed in better with like you can put stuff out off the earth and all this stuff,
Yeah.
that will start to advance even more rapidly because there's just like you were talking, no one will have to do heavy work. It'll all be
Yeah.
taken care of as androids, and so we can expand our minds and do all this crazy stuff. And he's like, yeah, people probably did that. But also it's dangerous because he says most civilizations don't because they kill themselves.
Yeah, overpower, greed.
Yeah. And he says, then he even goes into, I think he was saying like that's what happened to like Atlantis and all that jazz,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
don't want to get us in a rabbit hole though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that, like,
But when you're thinking of aliens, I mean, for me, my mind shifted to where it's like these are just peoples who exist at a higher level.
where I always think about, and I don't want to
Could
get
make sense.
too much into it here, but yeah, no, well, maybe we cut it out if it gets too far. But you think about like the point in the Bible where like God flooded the earth because the genetic testing was corrupt. There are too many other things, right? So he floods the earth, gets rid of everything else except for like the
His plan.
correct
His
right,
plan.
his plan, right? And so if you're like a spacefaring race and you can do all this stuff and you have this creation, and then there's other people that are also trying to do stuff, and then they're meddling with your thing, you're like, I have to start over now. Like, okay, hey, dude, build a boat. Like, I'm going to have to, like, erase everything. Start over. It's like, who's to say that that's not, like,
A reoccurring.
a reoccurring thing that's happened everywhere in the universe, and we're a blip of a time where we've been started up.
Well, and this is actually something I was thinking about too. Is like, well, all of this conspiracy stuff, but especially the alien thing. Is like, well, how does that affect? I'm a Christian. I believe in God. Can I believe in God and believe in aliens? I think the answer is yes.
I say 100% the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I look at like there's a show called The Expanse, and it's pretty funny because it's set like 1,000 years in the future. People are like mining the asteroid belt for materials, and there's people all over all the different planets, and the Mormons still exist. Like, they're the religion at the time. They're building this huge ark to go out to.
Are they like
these
a weird
different-
religion, or are they?
No, like they're like the religion. Because
The
I
main
feel
religion.
like Mormonism, LDS, can exist if aliens show up. Where I feel like a lot of other religions can't, because they would have to change a lot of their core like principles. And if you're changing them at that time, I think it's too late. But if an alien shows up and is like, yeah, I'm from this other solar
Well,
system,
I mean, even if
like
You're like,
LDS could be like, yeah, that's cool. We've been telling you guys.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is, I think like in Christianity in general, like if you're a believer in the Bible, come on, like there are so many telltale signs of advanced technology.
You believe crazy stuff
You know,
already.
because I mean, like
You
brought up-
you do already believe this, that people can overcome death.
right,
Right.
that this is like just an experience that we're having, where are earthly beings having a earthly experience, but like we are truly spiritual children of a heavenly Father, a God that sent us to be here to be tested, right? Like that's like the main, Christian timeline. But I think if you look at it from the perspective of the authors of the Bible, right, and you see, like, you go back to like your UFO experience, right? Like, if you didn't know that it was a saucer and there wasn't like other people that had similar experiences, you wouldn't have called it that. You would have found something that is familiar to you and used that as like an analogy or a way of describing it. Kind of like when you start going to like, the Bible, where there's mentions of like a burning wheel and all
Well, think
these
about how
other
I
things.
actually did just describe it to you guys. I'm like, it was like a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually did what you're talking about
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now in my retelling of that
Exactly.
story.
Because
You
you're
made
trying
a-
to grab onto something that
Yeah.
has
like-
no place in
Yeah.
your reality.
That is
and
an
trying
interesting.
to tie it to something.
That's interesting because I did just do
Yeah.
that.
And like in episode 1, you were saying that like, man, it'd be so hard to go down with like an iPhone 2,000 years ago and try to explain to someone what it is, what it does, and how it works. And so if you look at the Bible and you look at all these different scripture references where it talks about like the city of Enoch, like raising off the ground, it floated around the earth and all these things, and it's like what would that actually be, And so I feel like if you're Christian, you believe in a God, you believe in Jesus Christ, you believe in, that when we die there's life after death, all those things. then I think it's hand in glove when you look at it from that perspective. I think sometimes people get afraid to dive into the alien topic or conspiracy theory topic, or that the Earth there's no way the Earth is more than 5,000 years old. All these different things. I think a majority of the things that we read it from 2023 eyes, and don't think about it from the perspective of people that lived 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, and what their world was like and how they would describe things. And I think that changes a lot of the different, things that are mentioned in the scriptures that I think we, almost take like literally.
Well, and
in
it's like
reality,
what we call...
It's just the way that they tried to describe things.
Right. It's what we call aliens. We could also call angels.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, an angel visited me, taught me how to harvest crops or something.
Well, and you think about it,
And then we say that, like, oh, an alien taught me how to do this, or an angel taught me how to do this. Either way, it's somebody giving knowledge and helping humanity progress forward.
Heaven is extraterrestrial by definition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess hell would be too, so we got to be careful which aliens.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, are they binding?
There's
you
probably
with
not all
things?
good aliens and not all bad aliens.
Well, and if you look at it from a scripture, Bible view, that there was, evil angels, and then there was good angels. And if you think about it, again, when did the term aliens come around? Do you think people 4,000 years ago were thinking, man, I wonder what other species are out there that keep visiting us? No. Like, they were thinking, like, how can I get my crop from here to the next town without having to carry it? Maybe we could create some kind of circular thing that rolls like a rock. You know what I mean? Like, their mind frame, like their understanding of space and the cosmos and all that didn't come till much later. So it's hard to think that they didn't have extraterrestrial experiences. I think we just look at them from the perspective of like that, like an angel.
Yeah.
I had an angel come. It was like this spiritual being. There was like, they had light, whatever.
Yeah.
Even if you want to get into like, I don't know, when angels come down in like a pillar of light.
Yeah.
And different things. It's like, and then you have these abduction or, experiences people have with spacecraft where it's like a pillar of light. And so there's a lot of similarities, I think, that the two can coexist, and you can be a believer in angels, but still have a strong faith in Jesus Christ and in God, and those two can coexist. When I think in the past, they were very contradictory.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of saying it. And it's also like, careful what you hitch your wagon to. What are you going to actually like?
That's one thing I want to be
commit to
careful
on the
of is like,
beliefs.
I'm not committing to anything.
Right.
I'm going to follow my religious leaders. I'm going to pray, think about it. But I'm also going to be open-minded, because I think when we finally figure out the nature of God, I think we're going to all be surprised.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I think there's things that we, just like trying to raise kids. Like, I feel like I yell at my kids a lot, and they don't listen to me. And I hope that one day, when I'm a little more wise and a little more patient, that I'm not always going to be just like reacting and yelling at them, right? That I have laid out a better path for them, and that I'm now helping them on their journey, as opposed to at the beginning, I'm just like yelling at them all the time. And I feel like the Old Testament's like that. Like, God's just yelling, killing people. And then Christ comes to earth. And then after, there wasn't all like the destruction and all this. It was more like, how are you treating other people? Like,
the higher
be
law.
nice. Like, it's, I've always looked at it as like, you just you're maturing and progressing, and I feel like that's in everything. This life you're progressing, and then afterlife you're still learning, you're still progressing, you're still trying to be better. And I think that all ties into just like the law one, which is my favorite theory.
Do you guys want a brief rundown of the different types of aliens?
Yes.
Hit us with it.
Greys, reptilians, Nordics or Pleiadians,
Pleiadians. Uh-huh.
mantis or insectoids,
I was like, I don't want to get into that one because that one's
tall, slender beings,
Yeah, they look like praying
humanoids,
mantises.
humanoids,
Uh-huh.
energy beings. Those are kind of the big six, apparently.
So energy beings they feed off our fear and our negative thoughts. So when you turn on the news and all the news is like the world's gonna end and famine and all this crazy stuff, and people are like, oh my gosh, they're anxious. That anxiety you put off feeds these beings. So that's why they want a world of chaos, and that's where religion's like, and Buddha's like, be peace, like, you're
Dude,
not
that sounds
feeding.
like Scientology a little bit. I'm not an expert, but I think I did meet.
Don't you have to sit on the bars and like?
Yeah, you get rid
you
of
cleanse. You cleanse yourself or something?
and
It's not called that.
You get rid of them or something. You clear yourself.
Going clear. Yeah. Okay.
So, but I think I met an energy being, dude, once. This was like a long time ago, and I was down. I was down in my basement.
He's got pictures of Bigfoot, sees UFOs.
I was down in my basement and I watched the movie.
I think we got the right person for the show.
Yes, we did.
I watched the movie The Ring. You ever watch that?
That stuff scares me so
And
bad.
I'm down there, I'm by myself, and everything's cool. And I turn the light off, and I'm telling you right now, dude, there was someone 1 inch from the back of my neck.
Yeah.
You know that feeling?
Oh, that's the worst.
And I think maybe this could be, if this was true, I never ran up some stairs so fast as an adult.
Oh yeah.
Father of 3.
Yeah. When I get popsicles in the middle of the night and I turn the light off,
You would get popsicles.
I'm hustling. I'm hustling like fast. Get back to
It's
my room.
always that like.
He's got to have something to go with the chicken nuggies. So
Well-
it's like midnight, and he's like,
It's the Smith's orange popsicles. They were always selling out of them, which was like a problem. So I was like, "Hey, store manager, like, can you order some more of these? I don't want to have to drive out to Saratoga get my popsicles." Come on, bro. Now they have them all the time. So
and
it's
I'm
good.
half joking, but there's been times like energy, and again, maybe not aliens. This could be like demons or whatever, And I've thought about this. Like sometimes I swear there's someone watching you, or and it's like, where does that come from? That feeling. I don't think it's all just generated in our brain.
No, that's where like skinwalkers come from, and there's all like these different theories and like.
I will say,
I feel like I'll just say it this way, and then I'll stop. What you open yourself to, I think, can exist. So if you're like playing on a Ouija board, right? You're channeling something that you can't see. And you're like inviting something in.
it isn't a lot of the lore with a lot of the old timey
And
monsters
that's where it's
like
like,
Dracula's. And
read
stuff.
your
You have to-
scriptures,
you have to
say your
invite 'em in.
prayers.
Yeah.
That's what you bring in, like peace.
I
Or what you bring in is
I wholeheartedly
evil.
believe in that we attract the things that like we consume. You know what I mean? And I mean that like on a psychological level, but I also mean that on like a spiritual plane. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Not evil demons.
yeah, please. But no, and I think
That's probably attracting by thinking either way. You're not focusing on them. You're focusing on them.
it's like the whole thing like don't think about elephants. You're like, God, now I'm thinking about
Now
elephants.
that's all I'm thinking about.
But no, I think, and this is kind of again like trying to find that middle ground between, like having a belief in a spiritual world, life after death, that you have a spirit in your body, and all those kinds of things, and then aliens. But I think that there are things that exist on a different plane that when you invite them, you can have experiences. So I think that happens on like the evil satanic demon way, but I also think that those things happen on a spiritual, communication, with angels and spiritual beings that mean you well, and having those kinds of experiences. Because I have like direct relatives that have had like spiritual experiences, like good experiences, and I have family members that have had like raise the hair on your back of your neck scary stuff, and maybe we'll do like a episode on that kind of stuff. I gotta make sure I can share those things before I share them. Don't want to make any of my family
You're
members
like,
mad.
Daniel's sister said this. It's like, oops.
And then
She's like one of the 3 people that watch this.
rips my face off. Yeah, now we just lost one of our 16 subscribers.
33%.
But no, I just think I agree with that. I think
underline.
I think that you can, if you think about it and you spend too much time consumed in the wrong thing, you will bring in those kinds of things. Even like with aliens, like I've watched documentaries where there's like this group of people where they would go out. I can't remember the documentary, and maybe if I can find it, I'll pop it up on the video. But there was one about these people that go all over the world, and they go to these different areas where people have had sightings, and then they go out there and they will literally sit and meditate.
Yeah, they'll
and they all
channel
meditate together, and then
it shows up,
and then they end up having like these spiritual alien type experiences, and they record it, and it's they call it like literally they're just channeling it in through like thought and through basically, like, I guess the idea is that they take their thought and their brain waves, and these aliens can pick up on that when they're together, all thinking the same thing. They create this basically almost like a beacon, and then these aliens are attracted to it, and they have sightings and have all these things. So, I think there's a lot of maybe.
So that's where it goes back to like, what are you channeling through your day?
Yeah.
Are you negative? Are you down on yourself? Like that's the world you're gonna live in. Are you peaceful and kind and patient and all this stuff? Like,
right.
So what you're telling me
that's
is
your channel.
The Secret is true.
Yeah.
The book, The Secret.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. I wish. I hope. Well, another thing maybe is those people
That's
are all.
your problem, dude. You hope, man. It is.
I know. Those people are like, yeah, it's true. I actually do agree with you, but it's like, well, how do you just switch from hoping to?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to channel because it seems silly.
Like, I'm not saying I believe The Secret for the record, but I also do. Kind of like my mom once. I was sick, and she's like, I got some really popular brand of essential oils that I won't say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that stuff's freaking voodoo, goo-goo, nothing. And she's insistent.
Yep.
She comes, she rubs it on my feet and puts some socks on. And the next day I was
You're out shooting hoops with your friends.
I was like, felt better than I had in a long time. I'm like,
yeah.
Did she put a curse on me, dude?
Well, that's like where like you think about.
So it's like, I don't believe in it. Even now, I still am like, it's still gobbledygook. However, yeah, I'd probably try it again.
Well, and you
it
look
totally worked.
You look in the past with like religion, and like they were healing with oils in their hands, and like I've gone to chiropractors that like have helped me overcome horrific things, and then doctors are like, "Here's meds," and so it's like,
don't use them too much. You might get it.
Right.
You might get addicted. Yeah.
And then I'll cut you off, and then you go somewhere else. They'll give you more, I guess.
I keep wanting to talk about it more, but like that channeling thing. Have you heard about when that the Catholics in like France or whatever, they someone became a saint, like something came from the sky, like they were all there gathered around, and they like saw like Mother Mary or something in the sky, and it was like a canonized thing. What if it's like this? What if like the aliens are like up there just like watching TV, and then all of a sudden all these freaking Earthlings are like. And they're like, they get sucked out of their lazy boy, just pulled into our.
And they like show up and they're like, "What do you need?"
Yeah. It's like, again.
And he's like, "Hey, should I buy the new Air Jordans? Should I?"
It's Lucero. Lucero's like, oh gosh, can I flip these?
Should I flip?
Should I flip these or should I hold them?
I like it.
Dude, Lucero would be flipping them.
Yeah,
no question asked.
Yeah, he's making money.
That dude is a hustler.
So, I think, in general, we all know, and I think Roswell's one of those that, like, at least now, I think most people know. They don't think, they feel like they know.
You look at like
there was an alien craft that crashed. The government tried to cover it up, and we all know it. They won't admit it, but we know that's something from another planet.
Kind of one of the faults of the government always trying to massage the truth. That's a nice way of saying it, or lie. Is now it's like, even if something's really absurd, I think people are just like, the government's involved? What do they think? I think the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like, and so it's like, maybe that's part of why people are becoming so more accepting. They're like, yeah, of course they would lie about this.
Yeah.
Of course they would.
Well, and when you have, like, I don't know, situations like COVID, right?
Like Fauci was in charge of Roswell, too. He's like 600.
He's an alien.
He's like, hey, I think that we should probably go down there and make sure the South doesn't secede from the Union. What do you guys think?
Oh, man.
I wish I could do a Fauci impression, but that I kind of think about it like he's just like a vampire.
Yeah.
But no, like, I think, when you have such, I don't know, especially as time's gone on, I think the government gets more bold on what they can cover up and what they can get away with. But then I think as they attempt to get away with bigger and bigger things, people become more and more aware because they become so outlandish. And the people that are running our government think that they are so powerful. And they have all the, like, they can just, massage the truth wherever they need to. Like, history is what they write, not what it is. And they think they can get away with anything. I think that itself makes people less, I don't know.
And they think it because they are.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to be
They've gotten
working.
away with it for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
agree.
works.
I agree.
And
But
if it ever starts to not work, just one of them gets picked off by the rest of them.
Yeah.
just savages just eat each other.
Yeah.
But no, I think aliens in general, I think there's no doubt, looking at it from a perspective of someone who's a Christian, someone who, prays and reads scripture and tries to be the best person I can possibly be. I think that there's no doubt in my mind that aliens have been here. I think there's no doubt in my mind that, like, I don't know, once you, like...
It was kind of this. Okay, so you're no doubt. Like 100% aliens have been here.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is I've not had in my life my own alien experience where I've seen anything or experienced anything. But I think, I don't know, it's kind of like sometimes there's like the tribal crazy guy, right? And everyone knows he's the crazy guy. But what would the tribe think when all of a sudden it's like half the tribe is now the crazy guy? Then you get to that point where you're like, are they the ones that are crazy for believing it, or am I crazy for not believing it? And I think there's been enough sightings, enough circumstances, situations with the government trying to cover things up, pilots experiencing things, the military coming out and saying that they've got, actual like Pentagon projects and.
Well, let me clarify. This is I'll just be critical a little bit. So are you saying there's UFOs, or are you saying there's aliens?
Both.
Okay.
I think there's
What do you
both.
think, Philly?
I think the UFOs are either crafts that the aliens are traveling in.
So you did aliens and UFOs.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you can call them aliens or angels, whatever. They've been on Earth assisting mankind.
God, now you're
from the
really
beginning.
blurring it up with me, because I do obviously believe that technically God has been on Earth and that he's from elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I
think
guess,
that's like a
so I guess,
given,
maybe, yeah. So I guess
So
maybe,
why wouldn't
maybe,
he have
maybe,
helpers?
Yeah,
Or
I could see
people,
that.
or people that are interfering. Because then, if you want to start getting
Stirring
into
the
like
pot.
scripture, we know that there is people that attempted to interfere,
Yeah.
and there's
We're gonna get pulled off again. Sorry.
Sorry. Good.
I guess. I mean, it's interesting because I'm kind of like
that was
struggling with this
incredible.
now, because I'm like typically walking around. I'm like UFOs. I believe in that there's unidentified flying objects.
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
right? So the generic
The term by
the
itself
term by itself, you're like, yeah,
exists.
we didn't know, and we don't know what it is, and so could be something. But like aliens, and like I guess traditionally, like behind Fielding there, the Greys and stuff, I've typically not supported that view. But then when I think about what I believe in the Bible and other scriptures and other writings, I'm like, yeah, I mean, did like what's it, Jacob's ladder happen and all that jazz? It's like, all right, and did even in Adam, God came down to talk to him? Mm-hmm. So I guess in that sense, I would guess I'd be 100% aliens if that's what we're saying, which I probably gonna be really pissed if we're calling God an alien. But alien is just a generic word that means from elsewhere.
Right,
from the Latin word
Yeah.
from elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I guess
Like
maybe
alien from another country.
Yeah.
Are aliens.
So
So everybody should chill out.
I guess I'd still want to see. I don't know. I guess I just don't feel it on like grays and interferers and stuff. That would be a bigger leap for me. But but as I think about it, I can see there's a problem with my logic. So I'd have to like, why is this like? Oh yeah, obviously. I mean, I was raised believing that.
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
And this part, maybe it's been too Hollywoodized and stuff. So it's like.
Yeah.
Like the aliens from like Independence Day. I'm like, no, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, that's where like religion and science, they've put a brick wall between. And I
It's
think
really
it's
more
not.
murky.
I think religion and science are very hand in hand.
And then I could see like people describing even God and his messengers, depending on where they're coming from, differently.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Right. Absolutely.
like
Well,
I think of him as God, and then maybe someone thinks of them as alien. You know,
Well, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. I can't remember if it was episode 1 or 2, but you were talking about how, religion and science are just on a different like angle, but they both are heading towards the same point and converging. And I think some people, when it comes to religion and science, are way back here, right? Mm-hmm. But I think as humanity goes on and as we become more aware of the situations and things that have happened in documentation, video, whatever, as technology gets more advanced, we're getting, I don't know, for me in my own spiritual experience, I think I have over time gotten closer and been able to take science and religion and put them together in a way that if an alien spacecraft showed up like on Independence Day and a bunch of, people came out, like it wouldn't throw my world into chaos in the sense that like, oh man, like in my entire life, I was
God
Christian.
still exists.
Yeah, God still exists. This is still part of his plan. And I could align those things in my mind in a way that it wouldn't freak me out. Like I think probably a majority of Christian or even just religious people that would destroy their belief in whatever religious construct that they have in their life.
That's where it'd be cool to talk to somebody with different religious beliefs than I have on that like
Topic.
theory. Like
well, it'd be cool maybe
an
to get
alien
some on
shows
here.
up, how does that tie into what you believe? And can it still exist?
And I could think of some people that are like, I don't want to call them in a derogatory way, but they're like kind of like vanilla Christians, like they're like non-denominational, I think would be the term, and
Yeah.
I think they would really struggle with it
Yeah.
I agree with that too.
because it seems much more rigid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then also I guess the question I have is like, how do I maintain like my faith, my respect for God and his stature or whatever? I don't want to like think of it as like he's an alien and UFO or anything, so I'm going to bring him down to my understanding. Like I still feel like we don't understand enough that you have to elevate it at a high level.
And it's still something that's very like hallowed and sacred, right?
And that's what I've always said when we're obviously like just scratching the surface. We're not going super deep, but when we always do, that's what I always preface it by saying, like, separate like the spirituality from it. We're just going to talk about like things, but then you put the spiritualness back into it and it takes on this whole other feeling.
Yeah.
But if you're just looking at it of removing the spirituality part, and then you look at history and all of that stuff and how things can tie
You
in.
can connect the two.
It would be interesting with like Joan of Arc and how because she was being taught by angels,
Right.
according to her own words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the prophets and what were they doing? And like freaking Elijah, one of my favorite stories from the Old Testament where he's going against the priests of Baal, and do you remember this? And it's like he's like kind of mocking them. He's like, we're gonna each sacrifice this bull. And so the priests of Baal, they spend like 3 days and they're like cutting and there's like blood everywhere and stuff, which I think is fascinating when you kind of get these cold type situations. A lot of times the blood is involved, and I think there's a reason for that. But they can't get their version of God to do anything with this bull. And then Elijah, like it's a drought and he still has like hundreds of gallons of water, and he comes and pours it all over his and their sacrifice. And then he just basically asks God to accept his sacrifice, and like fire just comes down and completely consumes both animals and the altar. And it's just like,
Yeah,
that
stuff
was
like that.
I mean, it almost gives me like chills even thinking about it, because like
Right.
it's not just a comic book story. Like, I believe that Elijah existed and he did that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't magic.
Right.
Like, that's the thing that I think a lot of, in my life even, I thought of as like magic. Like, God was magic.
Yeah.
But I don't think that anymore.
It's
I think
not.
there was a function. There was a
Something
thing he
happened.
followed.
Yeah.
Something that he knew.
Science would be a way to describe it. That he knew it was able to do that.
Because in that story was Elijah guided to do what he did.
Yeah.
The way that he did the sacrifice was
He was
probably
being obedient.
He was being obedient to a system that then
Unlocked
they could show
the power.
right, and
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, you could dig in. There's so many cool
Yeah.
things in it.
Well,
We have to
here's
stop because we'll just keep going.
Yeah,
But
well, here's a
I
question.
love it. I love it.
Here's a question then, because I think this is a topic that we're all pretty passionate about, or at least I don't know. I think Fielding and I think a lot of it very similarly on this topic. Do we do that for our next episode, or do we put that on the back burner?
I say we hold off.
Okay.
I like it creeping in, and then maybe we actually prep for an episode instead of just shoot the bull.
Well, then what are we?
But
Gonna
I
do
mean,
for-
because it'd be kind of cool to look up several stories like that and get like.
yeah, no, we'd have to do some research, and I think that'd be a lot of fun. But
Well, and
what's-
I'd love to do like a breakdown of that Visions of Glory book, because I feel like what's happening
That
now
would be fun for me because
is
I
what-
haven't read it.
Yeah.
That would be
We
really
could do
cool.
that. You want to do that for next?
That'd be cool. Visions of Glory. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Okay.
And it's in
Let's
line
look.
with kind of where my mind's at right now, because like this alien thing weirdly struck me as like a, I don't know, it's just weird. It's like, well, yeah, I believe a lot of these things already,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just with different verbs and
Well, that's good because
adjectives.
the wicked take the truth to be hard. So the fact that you're like, open to it,
Means you're not wicked.
that's good news, man.
Okay. Well, then we'll be back, episode 4. And it's not necessarily a conspiracy, but what are we going to do? Are we going to debunk it, or what are you going to call it? What are we going to call it when we go down the road of like the Visions of Glory book and talk about?
We just tie in because it's a theory on what is going to happen to America.
Okay.
And so we can talk about this guy, his vision on what he saw happen to America, and then the fallout from that, and
Are we going?
his experience in reuniting different people, tribes. And we can tie it into like what are we seeing now in the world, and does that fit in? I just think recently those guys like leaving, going into the mountains, saying that like they were told to do that, that ties in with such a main point of Visions of Glory that I'm interested to see. Like,
Okay.
So this kind of gets sparks me, and so even people who aren't like I don't think my wife will even ever watch our podcast. That's how disinterested in like this type of stuff she is.
my wife was a little bummed we already touched on Bigfoot.
Oh, she likes Bigfoot. Okay, cool. I'm excited about that. But my point is like the world's changing, because even my wife at the last like kind of like big meeting of our church was literally looking for Jesus Christ to be like sitting in the
Yeah.
stands. So she's not into the conspiracy theory, all this stuff.
Right.
But the realization that the end times have, and a lot of these predictions are coming true.
Knocking on our door.
It's like everyone kind of knows, like, yeah, this is.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Okay. I think that's a good point to end on.
Okay.
So, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget the traditional YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, share it on your guys' social media, share it with some friends, share it with people you think might be interested in this topic, especially like our next one, we'll dive into Visions of Glory. I think that's going to be super interesting, and we're going to keep making content.
Yeah.
So comment on, whether it be on our Facebook page, Instagram, or YouTube, or Rumble. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, because, I mean, we love talking with each other, but we're really making this content for the people out there that want to know more about this stuff. So
Smash that like button.
smash that like button.
So if you like us, share. If you don't like us, share.
And comment.
Yeah.
Tell us why you don't like us. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.